Welcome back to the Leading Woman Show. Politics in Africa and many other developing societies of the world have a common description. It's known as a dirty game. This description continues to be a major cause of political apathy across board. With this connotation of politics as a process reserved for the strong-hearted, or in some cases, a do-or-die affair, for those who engage in life-threatening activities all to gain political power. This undermines the importance of politics as a democratic process to contest and get elected as a political leader. This negative image of politics, characterized by violence, midnight meetings and consultations, sorcery, rumor mongering, character assassination, and sometimes destruction of lives and property, has contributed to the reduced number of women actively involved in politics in Nigeria. So, on this episode, we discuss the topic, the dirty game of politics, and if women can play it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Leading Woman Show, election series, brought to you with support from the National Endowment for Democracy. I am Abosede Jojogan, and today I will be speaking with two amazing guests. First, we have Kunle Lawal, an entrepreneur, a politician, and a patriot. Kunle was once the national secretary of COA Party and the Alliance for New Nigeria FCT senatorial candidate in 2019. Also with us today is Benedicta Ndi Kato, who is a political analyst and a human rights activist. Ndi Kato ran for House of Assembly seat in Kaduna in 2018. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation as we talk about the dirty game of politics and if women can play it. So, Kunle and Ndi, it's really, really great to have you with us today. Thank you for coming and for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
So, we're going to be talking about something that I think is very interesting. The dirty game of politics, and can women play it? So let me start with you, Ndi. Do you think that politics is a dirty game?
I mean, it shouldn't be. Ideally, it shouldn't be. I do not enjoy when it is called that, especially when people accept it and put it as part of the argument. Oh, it's a dirty game, let's play it. However, it is. The way it's played, especially in Nigeria, it is. I was just looking at, Binani from Adamawa State, and she's just been dealt a heavy blow after all the effort she's put in. However, the statement she had to put out, in that statement, she kept referring to Ribadu, who put her through that hell. And she's just like, my elder brother. Like, she's pacifying. My elder brother has done this. We know where we met. Just want to let my elder brother know, let the court, like, it's such a cruel place. It's cruel, it's crude, and it's not an ideal place for anyone, more so women. However, at the end of the day, we still have to play it. Politics is a conduit to good governance. It's the route we have to take to get a better nation, to get good governance, to deliver services to the people. And it's something that needs to be done regardless.
Fabulous. You've gotten us started really, really well. But let me come to you, Kunle. Do you agree that politics is a dirty game?
So I think discussing politics, everybody would always sell the narrative, it's a dirty game. But I think it also comes from the approach that people who have gone into politics try to go through it doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So if there's anything 2019, running for office in 2019 taught me, it was that you invent a new game, you drag them to play it with you, and then you beat them at it. Because if you're going to play the same game, which everybody has always played, They've been there longer than you. They're going to beat you at it. So the target is, yes, it's a dirty game, but to be able to thrive in that game, you invent a new game and then get them to play it and beat them at it.
So I like where Kunle is going. So Kunle is saying it's a game, right? So it has been branded as dirty, but ultimately it's a game. So Indikazo, can you deconstruct for us what are the elements that led to politics being branded dirty? Because it's a narrative, right? And to your point, it's a narrative that now has evidence. But what does that look like? What are the elements of politics being a dirty game?
Um, so many things. I mean, I've had people. Let's look at what happened in one of the political parties. And with the governor of Rivers State, and people he smiles with daily. They have done deals together. They've run for office together. And last minute, when he was trying to run for president, one person that he really trusted, right, Tambuwal, just stood up and gave his votes to the other candidates, said he was stepping down for the other candidates. And since then, this guy has been on and on about it because, you can be smiling with somebody this moment. You can be having a conversation. All of you would agree on something. And the next minute, the person you just agreed on that something with can just go and do something else. And you just have to chalk it up to its politics, And that happens over and over again. You go to people to solicit for votes, for support to your face. Yes, it's the kind ones that will tell you no in politics. Those who are kind to you are those who will tell you no to your face. You know what? There's nothing that is going to make me support you. We're not together. That is kindness in politics. But many people, you would go to them and they will tell, yes, of course we are in this together. And you're definitely not in it together. There in Hausa, there's also a group they call Young Kasua, people who are there to buy and sell. They're just there for your money. And you're putting in so much effort, and these people are making you believe that you're on course and you're not on course. When you see a politician saying they can be president, and they can't be president, well, there are people in the system that are assuring them that they are the next president of Nigeria. And at the end of the day, you have spent everything. You're finished. You spent. You look back. I couldn't have been the president of Nigeria. What was I thinking? It's all part of that. I don't know if we've gotten to the part where I should talk about experience as a young woman in this. So
we'll get to that. But I think what I hear you say is distrust
completely
is a major characteristics of that brand, right? That makes politics dirty. So it's almost like better know that you're going to encounter people who you can't fully trust almost, right? Whereas maybe in other things in business and, you can feel like if we do 1 + 1, it will be 2.
Politics,
but in
1 + 1.
1 + 1 doesn't add up.
Does not add
what
up.
would you say? What are some of those characteristics that have, branded politics dirty?
I think what has branded politics dirty the most in especially this part of the world is our non-involvement. If you look at your church fellowships, the same things that happen in politics happen. If you look at your Muslim fellowships, the same thing that happen in politics happen. If you look at even just a WhatsApp group admin, those same things happen in exactly the same scenario, just like they happen in politics. You have this group within the WhatsApp group that are plotting against another person that made a statement, and then they will all go and report to the admin. The admin now tries to separate. It's the same thing that
the person has been removed.
thing that goes on in politics. I think why we're scared of it is that the allocation of power in Africa is not evenly distributed.
Yep.
So we're a little afraid of engaging in things that involve the power structure or the entire struggle for power. And I think that's what most we're scared of. So you have people that are young who are told they are the future of the country. And then you wake up and you're 49 and they're still telling you are the future of the country. The future is when? And that's where the problem in politics is.
Interesting. So insecurity, I think, is one of those things that has branded politics as negative. And more so for women. What does that look like? Because I think when we talk about it, one of the things I hear everyone say is, well, it's insecure for everybody, and they try to sort of make that seem like if it's insecure for everybody, then it's like, go figure, right? But why is insecurity particularly a major hindrance for women to get involved in
So
politics?
I think the most painful thing for women is, when you say this thing, that it affects everybody, the way to look at it is women are not the perpetrators, and this is where it's painful, right? You can tell when the governor of this state is pursuing one senator who is not a spokesperson, and the senator has to climb a tree. It's what men do in this space. But you cannot see Pauline Talen, you cannot see Binani, you cannot see any of these women, Uche, Ikunife, and the rest, ordering hits or all of that on people. So the thing is that the style of politics that women play, women cannot afford to be this violent in politics. We do not bring violence into the political space, yet we are victims of it. So if you were to say it's affecting everybody, what one would wish is that those who prefer to be violent in politics, maybe keep it within your own circle and be violent there so that those who are not violent can continue. But unfortunately, it's touching women. And I mean, one of the most brutal experiences in politics was in Kogi State, the last Kogi State elections. And, this woman, Madam Salome Abu, all she did was, at her polling unit, she defended the votes there. You cannot rig this polling unit. I'm going to make sure that the votes come out a certain way. And she did that. And at the end of the day, these young men, they go to her house, they set the house on fire, they dance around the house to ensure, like, while she was shouting and dying, they were dancing around the house to ensure that she died in like that. And can we have another experience from Edo State? I think the former speaker of the House telling us, of the House of Assembly in Edo State, telling us how, I don't know if it's speaker or deputy speaker, but it was a woman, and how they'll be trying to have campaign meetings, and the next thing, gunshots, and everybody's flying out of the windows and all of that. And how do you tell those women after to gather back? Because they're not the ones shooting. How many women do that in Nigeria? They're not the ones shooting. They're expecting, in the first place, the entry points for political participation is not so low or easy for women. It's not so easy to participate. Then you now convince these women to come out, and then they come out and the space is unsafe. So it's not, for me, the major conversation is, it's not just to say, oh, everybody suffers this violence. Are women perpetrators? When women participate in politics, do they bring violence to the table? No. So as they do not bring violence to the table, they do not expect that kind of system. However, that system is meted out to them, and it's not a system that is healthy for anybody to participate in. It actually leads to hindrance. You can draw a straight line with a number of women now. If you go to Kogi State and say participate, many women will say no. I don't want to participate. The last woman that we saw as woman leader in this state, what happened to her? It will make a lot of people take a step back. It will make a lot of husbands say, not my wife, or it's not my wife, they will kill like they killed that person's wife. So this is what violence does in this kind of system.
Thank you for bringing that to life. Many times when we talk about something like violence in politics, I think we only maybe limit it to the electoral violence on the day. But what you've done is just practicalize how women face violence. And to be honest, we've heard even more horror stories around women, and violence. No, I'll come to the online
violence,
cyber bullying, because I think we need to talk about that. But Kunle, when you hear such a thing as to, this level of violence that women face, what is the incentive for women to get involved in this dirty game?
Number one of the key things I've always been about is that, and even the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria support, is that you can't have governance without inclusion. And inclusion means, as long as there are men, there should be women in the room. How that has worked with, of course, violence within politics, of course, heading to the female gender, I would say on behalf of my gender, I apologize. But I would also say that not all men are guilty of that same action, and are also recipients of the same action. The only way we could mitigate this risk is to, of course, decide to look into the structure, the way people emerge from primaries, look at the entire system. You see, the problem I think we've had with bringing women into politics is that we've always been concerned with the end product, which is a woman is in office, and never followed the process to ensure that the right people emerge, and women too are given an adequate chance to emerge. So you have sane people in the system, and so you can deconstruct the usual bad menace, and then have a sane political system. If we're able to concentrate on that first, then we can have more women participating. If you look at the number of Nigerian women who are in the English Parliament or are councillors in England, it's higher than the women in the in the National Assembly in Nigeria. Why is that? Because the system there allows a woman to come out, debate. Everybody there is saying everybody knows what to do. It's not, you can't give money and expect something, votes in return. You go to the field, you win, you lose. You create that, of course, automatically women will, of course, be included in governance. But the moment we concern ourselves, restricting ourselves to strictly the product, which is a woman in office, I don't think anything will really change.
I think that's a really good point. The fact that we need to focus on sort of the pipeline, and then we need to focus on systemically what are the barriers, right? And how do we address those barriers? Because a woman will not just show up and get elected, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that's a major hindrance, and some of the other things, so insecurity, but also our mindset. So, indeed, one of the things that are easy to talk about is physical violence. But what about the psychological violence that women face, especially when they dare? In the context of a country like Nigeria, it's a dare. It's almost like I dare you to go into politics because who are you and why should you, be in politics? What does that look like?
Where do I even begin?
Especially because you're very active online.
Yes,
so I feel like you are in a good position
active.
to
I'm active
respond
online.
to this.
Recently, since the announcement of, the campaign committee list and my appearance on TV, perhaps people think it's a good thing or they think it's a nice thing, I don't know. But people actually shared my numbers to people. And so I started getting phone calls, random phone calls at odd hours in the night. People want to tell you, oh, thank you, I saw you on TV, I really like you. Like, that is my space. I no longer have like my personal space. I know a lot of politicians go through that, but when it's now jumping into sexual talk, when it's jumping into sexual talk and, my formal email has people using their own formal emails to proposition and all of that. So that is happening. People are reaching out and talking about my kid and what they want to do for my kid and with my kid. There is that happening. Now let's go to spaces like Twitter. On Twitter, you can... There was a day I was talking about the government. I think I was criticizing either Buhari or the Lagos state government. And somebody just said, shut up, Ashao. And so I responded. I said, well, how does my Ashao affect good governance?
Like, what is the correlation?
What is the correlation
between that? And have I ever heard them call a man anything, similar?
It's so
because they made a comment.
At the end of the day, so there is that. And for women, of course, with respect to that, one of the first things you need to learn to do when you are entering politics is that thing called shame. Just remove it and keep one side, because that's going to be the
hold that
that's
thought for me, Indicato. When we come back, we will continue this conversation because it is getting very interesting, and I want to dive more into some of the things that we've already heard. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. So before we left, we were having a very interesting and engaging conversation, and we had to bring one more guest to lend her voice to this very important topic. With us in the studio today is Khadija Okunu Lamidi. She's the founder of Slice Media and was the presidential aspirant for the Social Democratic Party for the 2023 elections. Welcome, Khadija.
Thank you.
All right, so let's continue this conversation. And I want to start with you, Khadija. So we're talking about politics being a dirty game. And can women play it, right? We're asking ourselves that question. And I mean, I'm looking at you, Khadija. You seem like a very calm woman, I mean, you look calm, right? And I guess my question to you is, you ran for president in this country. So is politics dirty? And did you just make a decision to play a dirty game?
I made a decision to play an ethical campaign, to run an ethical campaign. However, you could say it's quite dirty to some extent, but it's not as murky and as scary as it's made to look. That is actually something that is put together just to keep people away. The game is how do I put it? It's not as deep as they make it seem. I think I had to actually go and run and experience it so that I can understand the process. It's been mystified so much for so long that we think it's only reserved for a certain few. And for us to actually break this cycle of you know bad leadership, we need to actually experience what leadership should look like. And it was a good experience. It had its pitfalls, which everybody should expect. It's not a walk in the park, and it's not but it's not also something too scary for anybody to not to
Get involved in.
involved in. So yes, it was quite interesting, and I think I have learned a lot. There's so many takeaways that I am very, very anxious to share.
Fabulous. So, what I'm hearing you say, and I mean, before you joined the conversation, we had deconstructed what dirty means when it is sort of, associated with politics.
Yeah.
And some of the things that we came up with is that actually, politics is dirty because there's insecurity, there's distrust, and really anything can happen, right? But I think the dimension that you've brought in is that actually it's one of the things, it's a narrative that has worked for a few people to actually exclude many people.
Definitely.
And unfortunately, women have fallen into the category of people who are excluded
Definitely.
from that. So before we went on a break, we started talking about the fact that, politics being a dirty game is not just associated with physical violence, but there's also psychological violence, and that could take different forms, including cyberbullying, naming and shaming, and all of those things, right? So let me ask you, Khadija, did you face any of these things running for president?
All of the above.
What is the audacity and what was that like?
Well, I think it's very important when we talk about leadership. It's quite important that you make a decision, a conscious decision, when you start a game or when you start running or whatever it is you choose to do. So cyberbullying, all those were part of. They're things that you need to expect, but how you respond, how you move from there, articulate it depends on your intention and your decision when coming in. So it's very important that as a woman, yes, I was threatened, I was told to step down, I was told, you're not president. I mean, it was put out there, and I'm sure it's still, it's been debunked, but the whole point it was supposed to have a bit of an effect or something on my character, which I wasn't moved, and I still went to the primaries, I still ran, and I still came second. So if there was no fear, they wouldn't want to push you from actually running, and that was what we're trying to overcome. That this part of telling a woman that she cannot run, also the way they schedule meetings at night or schedule. But in these things, when you make a decision, first of all, you have to take care of home, take care of your circle. It's an uncertain game, so if you take care of what needs to be taken care of when it needs to be taken care of, then you sit at midnight and have these meetings because your input is needed.
Is needed. So what I'm hearing Khadija say is that actually it's a dirty game. That's where we are today, right? And if you make the decision to actually play the game, then to your point, it's either you change the rules of the game or you play the game by ensuring that you mitigate against some of those challenges, right? But Indicato, how do we start to change this perception that politics is dirty? Because as we have already discussed, the fact that that is the perception and that is the narrative is really preventing women from even coming close to the political arena.
So I think currently a lot is being done. There are efforts. Women are trying to change this. Women are trying to create easier entry points in political participation. I mean, some of the things women are fighting for, in saying the how, I'm just saying
Yes,
they're already doing
absolutely.
a lot
What are
of
those
things,
things?
right? Remember the Gender and Equal Opportunities Bill? It has gone in there several times. It has been thrown out right
Several
in there
times.
several times. And, you know, in the effort to get this, the pushback has been so funny. Like, the pushback has been, we're telling you no. We don't have to give you a reason to tell you no. We're just telling you no. Women also try to fight for equal seats for women. You know, a lot of these things look like an entitlement, but they're not. They're creating easier, and a major thing in political participation is easier entry points. Easier entry points. So the special seats for women, that's what it was going to be. Easier entry points for women into the legislative government arm of government. And that was going to be for 4 election cycles.
Yes.
And then
Sunset
that would have
clause,
helped to
16
stabilize
years.
more women.
Yes.
So they're operating within this space where they're running against other women. It's a bit of a level playing ground for them, and then they can do that. Another thing is 35% affirmative action. So this is where it gets interesting, and this is my favorite so far. 35% affirmative action within political parties means that from the ward level of political parties all the way to the national level, no gender should have below 35% representation in the leadership. So if you go to, most times when we're fighting for women participation, we're fighting for it up here. We want more women senators. We want more women. There's want a woman governor. But then we need a woman to be ward leader, to be, you know, more
Chairman.
women at that ward level participating, because it's those ones who run for office, it's those ones who are the majority of the population. Those are the people who you need to be in active politics for this to run smoothly. And so if we get more women in these spaces, in important decision-making spaces, we will see it reflects in the way decisions are made in politics, in the way politics is played. If we say, oh, women play politics a certain kind of way, and this way may be safer or maybe better, then if you get more women into this space, then maybe we can
Start to sanitize.
the space. So that is
Exactly.
it. So
Yeah.
women are fighting for that. And I really, really stand for that. 35% affirmative action within political parties, ward level, local government level, state level.
Yeah. And
And
all
then
the way.
national. Another thing that we need to do, and I don't know why we don't have that in Nigeria, is the women's wings of political parties. These are great negotiating blocks. There's the argument that, oh, if you put a women's wing, they'll just keep you in one circle and then you will not come out of it. No. In other countries, women have been able to use, if you see the ANC women's wing and the thing they are able to do, right? Women carry this thing. They have their own president, their own treasurer, this and that and that. And then within the women's wing, they decide for themselves that we want this from the party. And if the party does not give us this, we're not going to give our support. Within this circle, within this block that we have created, we're going to cause so much problems that, you know, and then the party succumbs. So when we say that arguments against the women's wing in political parties, I just want to give an example. You know, right now in political parties, we do not have women's wings, we do not have youth wings. But what we are seeing for APC, there's the APC Youth Forum or something. It's not an official youth wing, but people like Ismail Ahmed and co came together and created something, and they use it as a negotiating block. And you see how well that is working for them in the APC. Recently, PDP has come up with something called PDP New Generation. I saw an advert from them on Arise TV yesterday. I was like, wow, this will have come so far. Those are unofficial blocks that they have created. And women need those blocks because those blocks are powerful.
Yeah.
Imagine August meeting, or if you're Catholic, CWO. You know what CWO do. Or if you are Igbo, the women, what do they call them?
Umuada.
Umuada. You know how powerful Umuada is. So having Umuada within political parties, they are powerful. We need that for women.
I think that is amazing. I think that is really something we should think about.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Indikato. Kunle, I want to come to you and talk about structure. So one of the things they say about politics is, do you have structure? Please, what does it mean? Because I think that in the context of Nigeria, it is not a positive thing, right? So before we talk about how can women build this structure, or we ask Khadija if she had structure, what does that mean? What are they trying to say when they talk about structure?
Well, preceding me running for office in 2019, my idea of structure, maybe because I had worked within a political party, I was national public secretary. My idea of structure was that ward level, whatever, you know, up to national. That's not true. Structure in Nigerian politics is defined as money. Don't deceive yourself. The delegates in PDP are the delegates, and sometimes could be delegates in APC and could be delegates in NRM, etc. It sounds funny, but let's use the Nigerian concept for what exactly it is. So, if structure is defined as money in Nigeria, we must say, if you're looking at the present system, that's with the present presidential candidates, there's one that, of course, comes to mind who has shown, the people can come together and build up a force that is totally different from, what the norm is. And I think if we're looking at women trying to infiltrate this, I think there's a common problem, and it's common with women and young people that try to run for office. So everybody tries to run for office, and there's no long-term plan. They just wake up and just think, oh, forms are cheaper for women and young people. Let's buy it. That's why that trick called structure works on you. But if you have an organized plan in which you sit down and say, okay, this is 2022. By 2031, I want to be a legislator. You will notice that you start to work towards it. The universe itself will start bending to receive your own thought process. You will start carrying yourself like someone that is representative of the office. So it's a lot easier when in 2029 they are selling political forms. You easily get it. You easily get the movement to follow you, and that's how you get it. So I believe if women want to get their own structure, they have to be a lot more intentional in moving forward. I loved what Indy said about women forming their own women wing and what. I'll be honest with you, no politician in Nigeria has gotten any office without women.
Of course.
Women are the strongest. Even while running for office, I believe most of the volunteers to my campaign were women. I don't think anybody else. Have they translated it to membership of political parties? I think that's where the problem lies.
Or the leadership?
No, I would say even membership. I've been with and I work with political parties, so I'll tell you that the ratio of women that want women to have power is higher than the women that actually are in political parties and actually participate. They participate in elections, but
as
not
voters.
as voters.
But they are not members of the political party
to participate to get power. And the moment they are able to break this system and entering political parties, they will in turn determine who becomes delegates, directly in turn determining who the candidate is.
That is really good. So how do you build structure? Like you said, let's go into the parties, let's build the structure. But Khadija, I have a question for you. Did you have structure? Both the one that we know and the one that Kunle said that is the real structure. Which one did you have? Or combination?
Well, we thank God is the word. If you noticed when I declared to run, I declared as an independent, and that was because we're trying to build structure, and building structure, it's always better to build yours independently from existing structures. So we came out as an independent so that we could get wide appeal. And that also, like she mentioned, that also gave us access to every political party in Nigeria. That was kind of how I met Kunle. So we had conversations. Okay, you want me to join your party? Why?
Right.
How many women are in your...
Good.
Those were some of the conversations that we're having. Those were some of the prerequisites for why I should join a party. So he gave me access to also kind of change some of the mindsets that they were having, that, oh, she's really serious. Okay, if that's what you want, okay, we have not just woman leader, we have, in this position and this position. And that gave those conversations a starting point. And then subsequently, we then decided, okay, where we're going to go to, went to the Social Democratic Party. And, but because we had already galvanized the consciousness of Nigerians, which was the goal, that was the goal. You have to understand that was the goal, to ensure that everybody says, she's such a young girl. Why is she running? Okay, you know what? I'm interested. Just that interest alone is good enough for you to start understanding and getting the political education that is required. So we then moved to the Social Democratic Party, and because of that, we're able to, galvanize a movement. So it was more of a movement than
you attempting to form like another political bloc.
Now, when it comes to the money politics, maybe I wasn't able to play that well because I'm a starter, which is okay. You start somewhere. However, what we decided was, number one, I got my form for free. I'm a woman, and there are opportunities and platforms that give us these things, but we don't take advantage of them because we think 100 million, because that's all we see in the media every day. Oh, that's how much the form is. But from councillor level to chairmanship, there's 200,000. There are some that you pay nothing. There are some, so they're not affordable, but they can be affordable if you have the right mix and the right, you're popular enough, you should be able to raise the funds. If you're popular enough for the position, you should be able to raise the funds. And we raised our funds. All the funds we used for campaigning, we got no money from any politician. It was my gate man giving me 5,000 every week, my driver giving me something, my friends donating. So that was the only reason why that movement could not be hijacked, because it was a combination and it was a communal effort. And people just said, you know what, okay, this is something different, let's move with it. But we didn't get the ticket, so I'm sure that was galvanized into somebody else's campaign, which is fine, which is good, is all well and good. However, I need people to understand that it is possible.
It is possible
you can
to
go
build those structures. Because money politics is also one of the characteristics of politics being dirty. But I think what you've just described shows us that there is a way to democratize the process, build structure, and I think ultimately that structure can get you the resources that you need.
It must be able to, a campaign should be able to run on itself.
Absolutely.
It's message.
Great. So the next thing I want us to explore is the role of the media in shaping this perception that politics is dirty. And I want us to start to go to solution. So you have been there, Isha, all of you have been there. You know what works and you know what can make it different. Because actually, since you've all been there, you know that politics is not as dirty, right? So when we come back, we want to talk about the role of the media and then what you learned that we can do differently. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. So before we left, I was saying that we should talk about the role of the media. So, Ndi, what role do you think the media can play in sort of changing this narrative of politics being a dirty game? Because the more that we then get that out there, potentially the more interest we'll have from the women folk.
So the media has a very great role to play, and dare I say, they are not playing it. Yeah. At the core of politics should be care, empathy, wanting to solve something. And it's the job of the media to direct it there. That candidates may show up, people may show up that the politics is wrong. The media's job is not to come and tell us, you see something wrong, like, oh no, I'm not supposed to take sides. You must take sides with justice. You must take the right side. I'm not saying that you should side with a candidate, but you should side with ideas.
Yes.
That this is the way politics is meant to be. And if somebody shows up and they're doing it the wrong way, the media should be clear that they're doing it the wrong way. But what we have here is, nope, we're just here to put that person on. If the person says they want to come on, put the person on. I remember in America at some point, even though it didn't work, I remember at some point in the 2016 election, I think that was the election that Donald Trump first ran, that at some point the media said they were going to take his campaign, like anything that had to do with him, and report it in entertainment news. Because for some of these news channels, what they were hearing was so off from what they were used to, that, you know what, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. Maybe this kind of raw talk does not belong in our political space. So let's shape it in a way that we keep it out of here. And then you see that after he lost the election, they've minimized greatly. He's saying a lot of things. He's releasing statements, but they don't give it that much attention because they don't want it. But here, a politician that would use his time to insult and sing in a very wild manner, our media wants to. It's all fair game. It's all fair play. Let's look at making an election issue-based. Right now, there is no media station that should be showing anything apart from the floods. That is the only thing. And then politicians are supposed to bend to that. That is, it's campaign season, but people are dying. Over 600 people have died in the floods in Nigeria. These floods have brought up dead corpses from the mortuary. People are going to be sick. Maternal mortality is going to rise. There are no hospitals for people in some of these areas. Schools are going to stop. So many things. The media is supposed to be facing that. Then, as people who are running for office, your team will now be scrambling to see
What
how
is the
you
policy,
can key
the
in,
strategy?
how you can, what are the
Yes.
strategies? Let us show that we care. But every time we go on TV today, the conversation about the flood is minimal. We want to know what Erifai said about Peter Obi in Kaduna, what Peter Obi said about this person, not related to the flood, not related to empathy, not related to the issues that show that people care. And so our media's job is to bring politics back to the core of politics. And I said this at the beginning of this conversation, that politics is a conduit to good governance.
It is.
Not just to governance. It's the route we take to good governance. It's the route we have to take to deliver services, quality services to the people. And so if the media is able to shape the conversation in that manner, that anytime you are coming here, anytime we're talking about this issue, anytime we bring this up, it's not about the petty games. It is more about these issues. And that now makes politicians less about that. If you have something dirty happening, if you want to pinch somebody in a certain way, it's less about you. You can't focus there because you have to focus on the issues that the media has made this. Unfortunately, that is not
That
so.
is not
and
the
we
case.
need to be able to bring it back there. I wish that there were media people here, and I wish that you have this conversation, because in mass comm, it's called agenda setting, and it's the job of the media.
Absolutely.
The media is supposed to tell us this is where to go, and the rest of us
And
follow.
everybody
follows there, yes.
So, I mean, thank you for that. All right. So we're going to come to the audience shortly. But Khadija, I wanted to ask you, so role of the media, what role did the media play in your specific campaign, for example?
Well, I would be quite fair. Maybe it was because of the insurgency of the type of campaign I was running. There was interest and there was a lot of support. Maybe as a female, and there was quite some support from a few media houses, and the narrative that was pushed forward to wasn't so misogynist. It wasn't so misogynistic. It wasn't so it was quite fair. It was quite balanced, and it gave me a bit of an opportunity to explore the space a bit better and a bit, without the pressures that come with it. But like she said, they do have a huge role to play when it comes to agenda setting, because I had to set the agenda for my campaign. I had to set the agenda for what I was, the issues I wanted to speak about, and it resonated with.
And they followed through.
Yeah, so it
So,
resonated.
I mean, we'll come back to that. But I what I'm hearing you say is the media played a role in your campaign, maybe because you didn't respond to the negative. So what I'm hearing you say is there was both negative and positive, but as long as they were talking about you, it did help your campaign,
Yes.
ultimately.
Yes.
And that's the truth.
Yes.
Fabulous. So let's come to our audience now. There was a word that was mentioned that I want anyone who can tell us what it means. We're learning here. We're learning, relearning, and unlearning through this show. So I heard a word that Khadija just mentioned called misogyny. 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 Who can tell us what that means? Misogyny. Okay, but I think we have someone. Great.
Misogyny means
We can't hear you.
a special
Is
kind
the
of
mic on?
hatred.
Okay, go.
Hatred towards women.
We can't hear. We can't hear. Is it me? Do you hear
I
her?
said misogyny means a special kind of hatred towards women.
A special kind of hatred towards
A
women.
special. You're the panel of judges. So should
Like
we take
hatred
one more?
towards women.
Yes. No, we hear you. We hear you. Accurate. 50%.
Accurate.
Yeah,
I'll give her a
it's there.
Quite accurate.
Is there?
70%. Okay,
Quite
great. Thank
accurate.
you. Let's give her a round of applause. All right, so we're wrapping up. And we've been talking about the dirty game of politics. Can women play it? So that's my direct final question to you. Kunle, can women play the game of politics?
I have always believed that good governance does not have a gender, an ethnicity, or a religion. So it generally means that if we're to directly take this country forward, we will need everybody, people living with disabilities, women,
Absolutely.
youth, men,
Fabulous.
everybody part of that in a singular unit. Have women taken the right risks for what needs to be done? Yes, they have. Have they gone about it the right way? Maybe they haven't. There's more the emotional response to participate in politics than there is a strategic plan to take office.
We
I
need
wait
to
for
be
the
more
strategy.
strategic. Fabulous. Khadija, what's your take?
I think
1
definitely.
minute, please.
I believe women. I wouldn't say play the game or the dirty politics. I think women are in politics for sustainability. It's not a game to women, and it's not a game because we're at the receiving end of bad governance. So it's for sustainability, and it's a long game. It's a game that needs to be nurtured, and it can't move forward without us. So yes, we're in it.
Fabulous. Indeed. 1
Oh,
minute.
definitely women can. You're going to see a surge in women's participation in politics. The older generation have tried, they have laid the foundation, our generation is here. But you see the ones coming.
Yeah.
Gen Z is a different ball game entirely. The difficulties are going to be there, but the new generation of women, the young women that are coming, it's just a different thing. I thought I was stubborn, but I have seen something else that is.
They
I've-
take no
they
prisoners,
take no
is what
prisoners.
I say.
These are
Yes.
girls that remember when one girl during the NSAS protest really went on TV and said, "Buhari, you've been a bad boy." I was like, "What?" That is it. Even in the workplace, all of these girls are really doing a lot. So the foundation has been laid. The key thing is Kunle made mention of something. That participation, we participate around politics.
Well,
we
we don't
go to vote.
participate
Many
in.
girls are doing come out to vote and all of that now. But now we need a conversation that drives women more into political parties to participate from within those parties and seek power. I think there is power in numbers, and we need more women in that system, and that is going to happen.
Thank you all so very much. I cannot thank you enough. This has been a fabulous and engaging and insightful conversation, no? Fabulous. Thank you all for joining us. Next week, we'll be looking at the topic male allyship, why women need men. And I'll be joined by some amazing guests. Make sure you keep a date with us. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to shout out to a leading woman you know and tag us so we can celebrate her too. Until next time, remember that women's leadership can change everything, everywhere. My name is Abosede Jojogan. Bye for now.